More thoughts about violence. In the essay, Why Some Men Like Virgins, I talk a bit about violence, specifically violence that men direct towards other men. Men are hardly the only recipient of male violence, so in this essay, I hope to expand on some of the observations on violence I made in the Why Some Men Like Virgins essay. We live in a culture that believes immoral violence can be fought with moral violence, that bad guys with guns can be stopped by good guys with guns, and it is therefore necessary to have a group of people who are prepared to act violently should the occasion arise. Broadly speaking, that group of people is men who are not only taught to become sulking and violent, but are often violently policed by other men if they appear too soft. Women are by and large excluded from this system of violence because they are seen as possessing some inherent softness that would prevent them from pulling the trigger in a moment of crisis. They are not asked by violent men to become violent themselves. However, women are often victimized by male violence. This is strange, given the entire point of men becoming violent in the first place is to protect the innocence of women. Men and women both experience very similar forms of violence, but the motivation and purpose of this violence is often quite different. The first, and in my estimation, most common form of male on female violence is a consequence of the assigned roles within heterosexual partnerships. Men believe themselves incapable of accessing joy or self-love without the aid of a woman. Ideally, men and women will enter into a sexual partnership with each other where women offer vicarious joy in exchange for the man's protection. The man's happiness is his female partner's responsibility. If a man is unhappy, it is because he has been failed by a woman. A husband will beat his wife because he is unhappy and she is to blame. A husband will beat his wife because sex is a form of violence and it is through sex that he is supposed to attain the happiness he is entitled to. It is a punishment, sure, but it is also an extension of the logic of sex. Sex is violence against women. Sex is violence that enables the man to access happiness. Other forms of violence, such as or become the substitute for consensual sex when sex is denied or fails to perform its function. Men in relationships who are unhappy have their spouse to blame. Men who aren't in a relationship blame the woman who refused to date them. In theory, there are an equal number of men and women, and in theory, women need men just as much as men need women. But in practice, men are a lot more distraught over not having a partner than women are. Many women seem to think that they don't need men to be fulfilled and therefore don't concern themselves with dating. Unhappy men believe these women to be misguided. They believe women are happy because they are innocent and naive, and they believe women are innocent and naive because violent men work to protect their innocence behind the scenes. They believe unhappy men are the source of women's happiness, and that women who believe otherwise are deluded. Because they are unhappy and violent, they must be upholding their end of the social bargain. They must be part of the reason why women are able to be happy. They are therefore entitled to the vicarious joy that women provide through sex. If women are unwilling to provide sex consensually, then violence works as a substitute. It is both a punishment, but also a means of getting something deserved. Does acting violently against women help men get the joy and self-love that they are seeking? No, but neither does nonviolent sex. The entire framework is misguided. Sometimes men will have sex with a woman and feel a sense of joy and self-love, but most likely this is because the woman he is having sex with is acting loving and accepting towards him, not specifically due to something in the literal act of sex. There is a second, more difficult to articulate reason men might act violently towards women, and it has to do with men's self-actualization. Andrew Tate, famous misogynist, has a section on his website filled with short stories he's written that act as parables about becoming a man. One of the stories is titled Master Poe and the 9,998 Butterflies. In this story, a skilled martial arts master is able to pluck butterflies out of the air with such delicacy and precision that they remain alive and unharmed. His protege wants to learn to do the same and spends much time plucking at the empty air. Eventually, after much practice, he managed to pluck a butterfly out of the air, but kills it by holding on to it for too long. It is speculated that long ago the master made the same mistake. This is a story about learning to become a violent person. There's a line in it about how the master could pluck a butterfly from the sky, and with the same exact movement, he could pluck your throat from your neck. So the ability to pluck the butterflies isn't just a neat party trick, but a demonstration of one's violent potential. In the story, the butterflies are seen as beautiful and innocent, and their deaths are seen as tragic and devastating. The master sheds a tear when the student kills one. However, killing them is framed as an important part of becoming a martial arts master, aka a violent man. Being a martial arts master means knowing and understanding the power you possess and the responsibilities that power entails. Wielding your power in a way that destroys something beautiful and innocent is necessary to truly understanding that responsibility. It's a part of one's self-actualization, the story of how they become an important person with the power to kill but the self-restraint not to. We see variations of this story told everywhere. Men who don't understand their own power inadvertently killing the woman they love or their children or otherwise causing some great harm, this leading them to better understand their own responsibilities and to become the equivalent of a martial arts master in their respective stories. There can be a dual function at play. When the person hurt is someone the man holds dear, it can demonstrate to the man his own power, but it can also provide him the trauma necessary in becoming hard. I talked in the Why Some Men Like Virgins essay about trauma being seen as a necessary step in the development of men. This trauma can be self-inflicted. Men who are feeling disempowered, emasculated, or otherwise lacking self-realization might hurt people they see as pure and innocent because the pain of innocent people is a measure of their power, a measure of their development into men. People often say, "Boys will be boys," to excuse young men from the harm they commit. As children, it might be used when boys are overly physical with other boys, but in adolescence, it's more likely used to excuse hurtful behavior directed at female peers. Boys will be boys is a dismissive adage, vaguely pointing at some notion of biological nature, some unchangeable violent facet of boyhood. But it also points to this other idea of causing harm being a necessary step in men learning their own power. Boys will be boys. Boys will hurt the girls in their life because to become a man one day we must all kill a butterfly. Women and their feelings are objects of men's journey into adulthood. Why are men violent towards others? There is no single reason. He hates himself, and perhaps it is because he is doing a good job of being a man, and he is therefore entitled to other people's innocence. He hates himself, and perhaps it is because he is a failure of a man. He is still a boy, and he must kill a butterfly. It doesn't matter the reason. The prescription is the same either way. Traumatize yourself and others. If we want to rid our society of violent people, we must abolish the ideology that creates them. There are no violent people without violent ideology. We like to imagine the as existing outside of society, as being deviant, crazy, and incoherent, as holding different values from our own. But the truth is, they are products of our culture, and they carry many of the same beliefs and values as you and I do. The desire to see them as outsiders is the desire to wash our hands of our own complacency in the thinking that produces violence. If they were truly random and irrational occurrences, we wouldn't see the kinds of patterns we do. Certain demographics and certain contexts are much more likely to commit certain violent acts than others. Most people want locked up in jail, their freedom stripped from them. We don't mind the abhorrent conditions of prison because the people who go there have committed some moral transgression and deserve to suffer. We believe that their suffering will discourage other potential criminals from doing the same. We believe that we need cops, prison guards, good guys with guns, a necessary evil to fight those who would do us harm. We believe we need violent protectors. But the belief that we need some people to be violent is the belief that produces violent people. And when we have a culture that understands men's trauma as being a necessary and good step towards their development into violent protectors, then we can't act surprised when traumatized men act violently. To be a violent person is to be the most degraded thing one could be. It requires a profound lack of self-love, of self-respect. Violence is always morally degrading, and you must believe that you're not only morally bad, but also undeserving of being morally good to act violently. It is not in our nature to hate ourselves so much. It is not in our nature to be violent. One must be taught that they are undeserving of self-love to become a violent person. I am so exhausted of how unloving our culture is. We act like love is something we work to deserve, like love and respect and dignity are rewards for moral perfection. We scorn people who make moral transgressions, and we scorn those who love the people who have fallen from grace. I didn't learn to hate myself just because of bullies or jocks or hypermasculine men who embody the most extreme forms of patriarchal thinking. I learned to hate myself from progressives, social activists, those that fight fight for equality and justice too. I learned to hate myself because I possess racism, homophobia, misogyny, and hate, just as everyone who grows up in our culture does. I learned to hate myself because love is something we grant to those who are perfect, and because it was withheld from me, I learned that I must be undeserving of love. That I am undeserving of love is a lesson that took years for me to learn. Self-love is not something we give up easily. We cling to it desperately. It takes years of repeatedly being shown that we are undeserving of self-love to let it go. I don't believe anyone can act violently without learning first to hate themselves, and I don't believe anyone hates themselves easily or willingly. It takes an entire society with broken ideas about love and broken ideas about violence to produce violent people. We believe love is something you only deserve if you are without moral flaws, and we are all morally flawed, so everyone believes that they are secretly undeserving of love. How tragic and stupid and exhausting. Our solution to violent people is to produce more violent people. Our solution to a broken love culture is to produce stricter rules about who is deserving of love. Soon, we will all be angry men with guns. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, consider subscribing. You can also join my Patreon to watch the uncensored version. I wrote the background music, and you can find more of my music on Bandcamp or streaming services. If you have any comments, feedback, or video ideas, feel free to email me at EssaysAboutSex@protonmail.com.